Insurance fraud in the UK is reaching epidemic levels, and it's costing us billions of pounds a year. Deliberate crashes, bogus personal injury claims, even fake deaths. The fraudsters are risking more and more to make a quick killing. And every year, it's adding up to £50 to your insurance bill. Insurers are fighting back, armed with covert surveillance systems.
How they think they can get away with it, I don't know, when the evidence from the camera is so clear.
Sophisticated data analysis techniques.
This is connected to a bank account and a second mobile phone number.
And a newly formed dedicated police unit.
Police, get back!
They're catching the criminals red-handed. All those con men, scammers, cheats on the fiddle, now they're caught in the act and claimed and shamed. Today, a Whiplash claimant with an outlandish story.
She was arguing that she was in two places at once.
IFED raids a suspected fraud gang.
Open the door, it's going to get smashed in!
And the Lancashire police leave nothing to doubt.
You will be caught, and you will be punished, and your assets will be stripped from you.
Gloucester, not a place you'd associate with violent gang crime. But on the 11th of August 2007, 38-year-old local David Russell was found staggering near his home, covered in blood and with 7 nails buried in his body. He'd been the victim of a violent and unprovoked attack.
He spun me around, grabbed hold of my bottom of my T-shirt with one hand and then pushed what I now know to be this orange nail gun into my chest.
2 of the nails were buried in David Russell's forearm. More worryingly, another 5 had been pumped into his chest. 1 lodged just an inch from his heart. The attackers had not been found. DC Dean Morse was given the job of catching them.
Mr. Russell's allegation obviously sent, concerns through the community. The last thing you want is reports of a gang going around with a nail gun and basically attacking people and obviously shooting them with nails.
From his hospital bed, David Russell expressed the fears held by the local community.
You can pick on a 30-odd-year-old bloke, they're going to pick on anybody, sort of thing, so...
His plea was to have a dramatic effect on the investigation. It attracted the attention of an old boss who had some interesting information about Mr. Russell for the police.
On his CV, when he was employed by the company, that he said that he had spent 18 years in the Royal Marines, that he had done 3 tours of duty in Northern Ireland, and that he had also served in the Gulf War.
Some of which were complete lies. So DC Morse did some research on the victim.
This then led me on to making inquiries with the Criminal Injuries Compensation Board. Criminal Injuries basically told me that he had reported a crime in Avon and Somerset in 2004.
And to his astonishment, DC Morse found that in that incident, David was the victim of an unmotivated attack. The weapon, a nail gun. The number of nails removed from his body, 7. On that occasion, his insurer paid out £4,400.
When you suddenly have a previous allegation, exactly the same number of nails, with a method of doing it, basically, that is exactly the same, you know that you've got somebody there who is either the unluckiest man in Britain or is a consummate liar. We went to arrest Mr. Russell, and he broke down fairly quickly in interview and fully admitted that he had made up both the stories in Gloucester and down in Bristol.
David Russell appeared at Gloucester Crown Court. Pleading guilty, he was sentenced to 2.5 years imprisonment for perverting the course of justice.
He was very remorseful as to his actions, and he has fully regretted what's taken place.
The IFB sends out a warning to repeat offenders.
We now have all the tools at our disposal to be able to investigate and prosecute.
And a bus company faces a stubborn fraudster.
She, at great expense to the public purse, decided that she was going to plead not guilty.
In the fight against the growing problem of insurance fraud, an elite police squad have come together to form IFED, the Insurance Fraud Enforcement Department.
Insurance fraudsters are hurting us in our pockets. That's not right. IFED have been set up to combat that problem, and we will do so by making arrests all over the country.
This dedicated team works tirelessly to bang up the crooks and con men, getting rich off other people's money.
Police, get back!
If you commit insurance fraud, there's every chance that IFED are going to come knocking on your door and bringing you to justice.
Police, don't move, stay where you are!
By April 2012, after only 6 months of operating, it had already busted 80 fraudsters, adding up to £12 million of fraud under investigation.
Insurance fraud is seen at the moment as an easy touch. IFED are setting out to stop that and make these organised crime groups think again.
It's 5:40 a.m. and IFED is executing a multi-location raid on the members of a suspected fraudulent accident management company. These types of bogus outfits work by taking your car and making it look as though it's been in a crash with a second vehicle. They will then pay you to take responsibility for the bogus crash, leaving them to make a large claim for the damage to the second vehicle against your insurance company. IFED has one team preparing to raid a place of business and another at a residential address.
Right.
The team suspects that inside this flat lives a member who may have been involved in the fraudulent activity.
Open the door and it's going to get smashed in! Good lad.
Your safety in mind at the moment, so we do some searching in this van. Just going to place some handcuffs on you, okay? Just put your hand out for me,
Assisting IFED on the raid is the Tactical Aid Unit. Having gained entry to the flat, DS Mark Fraudster briefs them on the case.
He's introduced various people to this accident management company, provided names, addresses for claimants, basically. Yeah. So any documentation in relation to names, addresses, written on scrap bits of paper. We know that the accidents that have been fraudulently submitted to the insurance companies involve high-value vehicles, and a lot of money is being made by credit hire. In other words, replacement vehicles, some of which they're charging the insurance companies £300 a day for. And these are vehicles that they've had for up to 18 months. Lovely job.
Even before the team starts the search for fraudulent documents, they come across some cannabis.
Is that just all paraphernalia in there?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Is that...
Cannabis they're going to bag up and take with them then.
Oh, they found?
Caution, yeah.
They found, well, what small amount is it?
Yeah, well, an eighth, something like that.
IFED came here for evidence of fraudulent activity. In one of the bedrooms, a significant find is made.
Number of SIM cards here. Somewhere up to, I don't know, about a dozen or so SIM cards, another 3 there. Well, as I say, it's a common theme for criminals to use more than one mobile phone and certainly more than one sort of SIM card. It sort of assists to cover their tracks, etc., assists with their criminality, and basically it makes it a lot more difficult for us to detect who they're contacting, who's contacting them, etc.
DS Fraudster is called back to the lounge by one of his officers, tasked with analysing paperwork.
Suffered a fall from a ladder in 2005, sustained a heel fracture. He had an MRI in 2007, revealed protrusion.
He probably just keeps trying to claim, doesn't he? And he's got appeals with...
It's documentation that relates to a personal injury claim. We're just looking to see whether it may form part of a personal injury claim that may be fraudulent, or whether it is a legitimate claim.
The raid location has already filled a lot of evidence bags. DS Fraudster suspects he has found a piece of criminal research.
It's a printed picture from Google Maps Street View. This is the sort of thing that we do come across quite often with people who are involved in staged or contrived accident claims.
The printout contains a detailed description of the crash, including dates, times and positioning of the cars.
So, and underneath that it says weather, damp, wet. And then it says driver male, 2 males, which are presumably passengers or other occupants in that vehicle.
The suspect is arrested and the search for evidence is over. This half of the double raid is complete.
Off we go.
The second IFED team executes the next phase of the raid.
You're under arrest, suspicion of conspiracy to defraud.
The UK is the whiplash capital of Europe. Nearly 1,200 whiplash claims are made on our roads every day. The cost to the NHS of treating whiplash has been estimated at £8 million a year. It's December 2008, and the W15 bus is winding its way through the busy streets of Walthamstow, North East London.
Our driver was driving along a quite narrow and busy suburban road in London. There were cars parked on both sides, quite difficult for him to get through.
Unfortunately, an error of judgment from the driver resulted in the bus scraping a parked car. The owner of the damaged car, Patricia Walker, confronted the driver about the scrape.
Patricia Walker claimed that she had been sitting in the car with her husband, that the bus had hit the car and that she'd suffered injuries. She said that she suffered injuries to her neck and that she was still struggling with the symptoms 4 or 5 months later.
It was an unfortunate incident, and Arriva was going to accept full responsibility for the collision and the whiplash suffered by Mrs. Walker. That was until the bus driver's report was submitted.
Our driver had done a good job in completing the report form, which he has to complete after every incident, and he'd made it quite clear that there was only one person in the vehicle which he had hit.
Before any kind of payout could be arranged, this difference of opinion had to be sorted. So Arriva analysed the bus's onboard CCTV footage.
Our buses are fitted with high-definition CCTV cameras, forward-facing, rear-facing, internal cameras.
And when they analysed the footage, the bus company didn't like what they saw. Mrs. Walker wasn't in the car at the time of the collision. She was, in fact, crossing the road behind the bus. The footage shows her knocking on the bus's back window after witnessing the crash.
Unfortunately for Patricia Walker, it showed her not actually inside the vehicle as she claimed in her claim form. And when the bus actually passed her, Patricia Walker then walks behind the bus. You then see her on the footage actually looking down the side of the bus at the damage to her vehicle and then entering the bus and talking to the bus driver.
A fair cop, surely, but not in Patricia's eyes.
When we showed Patricia Walker the footage, she looked shocked. And her basic answer was, quite simply, "I know how it looks, officer. That is me on the footage. I cannot explain it, but I was inside the vehicle at the time of the collision." So effectively, she was arguing that she was in two places at once.
The police and we thought that she would plead guilty and go away quietly with whichever sentence the court thought appropriate. But no, she, at great expense to the public purse, decided that she was going to plead not guilty. Mrs. Walker seemed to think that the jury might believe that she could be in two places at once. Not surprisingly, the jury did not believe her.
Patricia Walker was charged with fraud by false representation. The jury found her guilty, and on the 27th of May 2011, she was sentenced to 12 months community service and a 3-month curfew.
I think she just made a wrong decision on this occasion. And why she pleaded not guilty, I have no idea, but I think she's regretted that decision. I think she was also very lucky not to go to prison.
For us, CCTV cameras are worth their weight in gold. We want a clear message of deterrence to go out to people that if you are involved in an accident with a Arriva bus and it's our fault and you are genuinely injured, then we want to pay you fairly and quickly. But if you're not injured and you're out to make a quick buck, then we'll do all we can to take criminal action against you.
Meet Munsif Dad and his two sons Amir and Nadeem. It's November 2005 and they've just submitted a £1,430 claim for repairs to the storm-damaged roof of a terraced property they own in their hometown of Nelson, Lancashire. That same month, the Dadd family has also submitted a second claim for storm damage to the roof of a second property they own nearby. The Dadds received payouts from the insurance company for both claims. 7 months later, in June 2006, in what seems to be an incredible stroke of bad luck, one of the houses again suffers storm damage to the roof. As before, the Dadds submit a claim for the damage and wait for the money to come in. But 170 miles away in London, something was happening that would stop the Dadds from receiving a penny from their insurers. The formation of the Insurance Fraud Bureau, the IFB. The IFB was set up to combat organised insurance crime in the UK. By persuading a previously secretive insurance industry to share information, the IFB has become a very powerful weapon in the fight against insurance fraud. The IFB had barely reached its first birthday when they were approached by an insurer with suspicions about a number of claims coming from the small town of Nelson. Among them were the Dadds' claims for storm-damaged roofs.
The insurer first became suspicious with the claims in Operation Flash because a number of the cases were close to policy inceptions and the circumstances of the claims were remarkably similar from one to another.
In order to learn more about Mr. Dadd, the IFB put his details through their specialist software. The software has access to information from nearly every insurer in the country. Armed with just the name and address of a single policyholder, the software can create a map of that individual's insurance agreements. It's a very quick process.
I could start by showing you what a genuine person in our system might look like.
The average policyholder would have a simple map with just a few connections, raising no suspicion from the IFB.
Here's an example of one of the properties in Operation Flash. This property in the middle was an address that was owned by Amir Dadd. In less than 2 years, he submitted 9 claims, and each of these icons highlighted in red represents a claim against one of the insurance companies that we worked with.
The software indicated that Mr. Dadd was suspiciously well insured, so the IFB took the case back up to Lancashire to get extra help. Leading the investigation for the Lancashire Police was DI Dave Groombridge. He and his team recognised a pattern in the claims being made by the Dadds.
I think the offenders in this case were clever in keeping their individual claims down to a minimum, so it was volume claims which netted a huge amount of money collectively rather than just 1 or 2 small big claims.
DI Dave Groombridge and his team unearthed a total of £104,000 worth of claims made by the Dadds. The Lancashire team also discovered the Dadds had not restricted their scamming to just home insurance.
There was a number of claims which were quite outlandish, principally dogs that didn't exist, never had existed. After 2 or 3 premium payments, these dogs were miraculously lost or stolen. There was also large amounts of jewellery, apparently stolen in burglaries, which indeed later turned up in the possession of the claimants. Complete false claim.
After 2 years of investigating, the IFB and Lancashire Police had collected indisputable evidence of fraudulent activity by the Dadds. The most astonishing information being the schedule of works carried out on the Dadds' 2 properties. 2004, storm-damaged roof at house number 1. September 2005, rear wall damaged by vehicle at house number 2. October 2005, wall damaged at house number 1. November 2005, roof damaged at house number 1 and 2. March 2006, wall damaged at house 1. April 2006, roof damaged at house 1. May 2006, wall damaged at house 1. June 2006, wall damaged at house 1 and 2. June 2006, roof damaged at house 2. The Lancashire Police were ready to strike.
The main conspirators, the main people behind this scam, were arrested in September 2009 by Lancashire Police. They executed warrants at a number of addresses, supported by staff from the IFB.
A judge at Preston Crown Court called it a clever and determined fraud. Mr. Munsif's dad was handed a suspended 9-month prison sentence. His sons Nadeem and Amir were each imprisoned for 15 months.
I think their criminal activities dominated their lives, and the vast majority of the trappings of their wealth had come about through their criminal behaviour. We pay increased insurance premiums to cover the losses incurred by the companies through this sort of fraud. But times are changing, and the police are prepared to work with other agencies, and collectively we will pursue these people and be under no misapprehension. You will be caught, and you will be punished, and your assets will be stripped from you.
Today, IFED is executing raids on a suspected motor fraud gang.
Open the door and it's going to get smashed in!
Alongside the arrest of a suspect earlier, the second IFED team continues to search 2 further properties. A large search is planned at a business address where they hope to secure more evidence. First, IFED heads to the home of another suspect.
From the City of London Police. We're from the police. Yeah? Yeah. Can we come in, please?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You're under arrest, okay, for on suspicion of conspiracy to defraud.
For what?
You don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention or question something which you later go on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. Do you understand? Yeah.
The suspect works for the accident management company, and they believe is involved in the alleged fraudulent activity there. DC Declan Mallow searches the flat for evidence of fraud.
Shouldn't be too long. Once you finish searching, we'll then take you to the custody suite, and then at some point later on today, you'll be interviewed.
This is the lady's main bedroom. The other bedroom's been searched and nothing's been found, so this is the last room to do in the flat.
DC Mallow takes some paperwork for further investigation. With a second suspect arrested, IFED has just one more location to raid.
Just had news from DS Finnegan that we've got access to another premises, so we're just waiting further update from him to see if he needs additional resources there when we've finished here.
With a 1,000 square metre business to search, the IFED team based here will need plenty of help. Leading the search is DS Tom Finnegan, who's just been made aware of the recent arrests.
We intend to carry out a search of her office very shortly. As I said, there are other locked offices in there that are the offices of the directors. We intend to effect entry to those offices shortly, and we'll see what comes out of that search.
There's plenty of security protecting this workplace, but IFED is used to such measures and has come armed with a crowbar and a battering ram. It's not just about brute force, though. Today, DS Finnegan's IFED unit is comprised of specialist investigators brought in anticipation of complex evidence.
My colleague here is specially trained to interrogate computers, laptops, anything of digital, electronic nature. We have dedicated financial investigators, and this gentleman is one of those investigators, so he's here specifically to have a look at the financial documents in relation to the company.
Looking at an intimidating workload, DS Finnegan calls in the help of DC Mallow and DI Rogers.
Right, the sort of things that we'll be looking for are these sorts of files, which say referrals. And within those, we'd expect to find documentation of people that have allegedly been involved in accidents and the subsequent claims that have then transpired from those accidents. Just for doing that.
Every scrap of evidence is needed if the IFED team is to get a conviction, and it's mounting up.
This is an office which we're definitely interested in searching. We'd expect to see whiteboards on the wall, sort of indicating the work that they're currently involved in, and we would think that these are the names, likely, of people involved in staged accidents that haven't occurred. Just for doing that.
The financial investigator makes a discovery.
What he's gone through so far, we can see large sums of money going through their business account, which might be all legitimate, but at this stage it's certainly of interest to us.
DS Finnegan's IT specialist is extracting large amounts of potential evidence from the computers.
What my colleague's doing at this time is taking an image, a forensic image of that server, which we can use at a later date, examine it for any evidence that might be on it, and obviously then it can be prepared as an exhibit for the case. Okay.
All in, IFED spends over 50 man-hours extracting, deciphering and bagging evidence on site. It's been a successful raid. IFED has enough evidence to fill a van, making DS Finnegan a happy man.
We believe this particular accident claim company has been responsible for putting a large number of fraudulent claims forward to the insurance industries. That, of course, when they turn out to be fraudulent and the insurance industry spend that money or pay that money out, results in you and I and all members of the British public paying more for their insurance. We, at the end of the day, are covering in our premiums the cost of fraud that's been committed.
The owners of the accident management company were also arrested, and along with the 2 suspects arrested in the IFED raids, are all now on bail. If charged with conspiracy to defraud and found guilty, all 4 could be facing 10 years in prison.